Maybe the biggest mismatch in Power 4 football this year. Vegas knew it, we knew it, you knew it, everybody knew it. It's not so much about Ohio State 45, Purdue nothing, but about the Buckeyes moving forward. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by. Best discussion, debate, and analysis. Ohio State proved to be tough and up to the challenge, of course, in Happy Valley, winning that game in a determined run-style offensive line-oriented fashion after getting down 10-0 and putting it away in the fourth quarter. All right, would they be just as tough? As Ryan Day mentioned this week, is this going to be a situation where we're tough on occasion, or is this our identity at Ohio State? Well, they were a bit sluggish coming out of the gate. Will Howard missed a pass on the first series that would have converted a third down to G. Scott, but he missed him, needed to put it on him. Buckeyes had to punt. But otherwise, once again, aside from a play or two, a pass or two here and there, Will Howard doing his job, 21 of 26 on this day. The Buckeyes even got the ball into the hands of Devin Brown and Julian Sayin, although I can't say much for 0 for 1 and 0 for 5 out of the two backup quarterbacks. For Ohio State, they basically got on the board because of the special teams first and foremost. Of course, it was Caden Curry on the blocked punt that set up the Buckeyes inside the 5-yard line, and it was Will Howard with the touchdown on the lead block by Quinshon Judkins, who did not have much of a day running the football, although it did not look like it was his issue, just not one of those days in which he got the ball much and didn't need to get the ball much 11 times, and during those times, Purdue did a nice job of wrapping him up. Quinshon Judkins, 11 carries, 72 yards, but again, it was Will Howard with the touchdown on the fourth down conversion, 7-0. Purdue moved the ball pretty well in the first half, especially, of course, between the 20s, because as you noticed from the final score, they could not score. They did have some playmakers back on offense, and as was mentioned during the broadcast by Joel Klatt, ever since making a change at offensive coordinator, that Ryan Walters has been able to generate more offense after the dismissal of Graham Harrell. Of course, they scored 49 points in an overtime loss to Illinois. They got close against Northwestern 26-20. So even though this is definitively the worst team in the Big Ten, it's really not debatable. They have been close a couple times and were close to breaking through on the scoreboard a few times in the first half. Max Clare, one of the best tight ends in the Big Ten. He had a couple receptions. And then Devin Mockabee, who's been playing college football at Purdue for centuries at this point. 13 carries, 73 yards. His first 4 carries, he ripped off for 13, 6, 9, and 11. That was a combination of the offensive line doing its job, but also Mockabee just bouncing off would-be tackler. So the Buckeyes need to be a little bit more determined, a little bit more stout in the run game defensively. But of course, they are strong in that area. But again, a little bit soft in the first quarter. Purdue could have scored, but there was a pass batted down at the line of scrimmage on third down as Hudson Card had an open man, and then Purdue missed a 21-yard field goal, kind of reminiscent of their game last year in which they missed all sorts of special teams plays and field goals early in the game and then got completely trucked by the Buckeyes. Last play of the first quarter, Travion Henderson with an excellent run for 13 yards and a first down. Final play of the first quarter, 6 carries, 85 yards. So this is key, of course, monitoring the usage of Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. Judkins 11 carries, Henderson 6. Keep them fresh for down the stretch. Lathan Ransom laying the wood on Hudson Card. We've seen that out of him quite a few times coming from the safety position, along with Caleb Downs, who we know can also lay a big hit on ball carriers. So the Buckeyes have some enforcers there in the back end of the defense. Edric Houston with a stupid penalty, just really dumb by him. I know he didn't like being held on the ground, but he got up and shoved the Purdue offensive lineman, therefore it kept the Purdue series going, kept them on the field, kept the Buckeyes from possibly scoring again to end the first half. And the Buckeye defense did rise up and stop Purdue in plus territory for the Boilermakers at that point. 14-0 on a 13-play, 80-yard drive in which G. Scott scored a 15-yard touchdown. But what was most important during that sequence was Carson Hinsman got rolled up in pass protection and had to leave the game. That was with 1 minute left in the half. So we don't know how Carson Hinsman is doing. And of course, it's been his insertion into the lineup on the left side against Penn State that proved or significantly was a factor in the difference in Ohio State's run game. Jeremiah Smith kind of plays, ran away from coverage for a touchdown to make it 21-0 with just seconds left in the first half. Carnell Tate also chipped in 6 for 56. Smith 6 for 87 receiving. Emeka Ibuka was not used much today. 1 catch for 10 yards. They missed him in the corner of the end zone for what would have been a touchdown with fine coverage from the Boilers. So once it got to 21-0, then the Buckeyes put on the barrage. 3 touchdowns in the span of 4 minutes, including a Jack Sawyer scoop and score to make it 45-0. Will Howard had one of those plays in which there was nobody around him. He was dancing around in the pocket looking for somebody. There was not a soul around him, and it really wasn't even a pocket at that point. There was so much space between he and the defensive lineman, but he just inexplicably slipped on the turf. And I know that the Ohio Stadium turf that was newly installed, I believe, 2 to 3 years ago, is supposed to be slick because they want it to be fast. They want a fast track. They've got the athletes, and they've got that advantage over most teams. But Will Howard seems to do that at least once per game, where he just, with nobody around, gets tripped up by the 25-yard line. Again, when you put it all together, the Buckeyes blast the Boilers 45-0 in a long string of victories that this program has had over Purdue throughout the ages. Although it should be noted, once again, one of my favorite stats in the Big Ten, in the 21st century, Purdue's got the best record against Ohio State of anyone. They've got the most wins of anybody, and they don't even play every year and didn't during division play. But Purdue, not on this day. Ryan Walters should be looking over his shoulder. I know it's only his second season, but at 1-8 as definitively the worst team in the Big Ten, he probably has one season to prove that he's going to make progress. I don't expect him to get fired this year, but I would not be surprised if they made the move. All right, for championship play, it means Ohio State's got Northwestern at Indiana and Michigan. It's all in front of them to get back to the Big Ten championship game for the first time since 2020. And a rematch, of course, with Oregon. Your thoughts about the Buckeyes, the play today. Look forward to Northwestern. And, of course, everybody's looking at that Indiana date in Columbus in 2 weeks. Leave us your comments and questions down below right here at the Voice of College Football.